So it's another video, and in this one we're going to be putting some software on a computer, and we're going to look at a couple of ways to do it. We're going to look at my personal favourite, which is using CDs, and also a newer, more modern way to do it, which I don't like as much, but which is much more convenient, which is downloading things. So to do it, we're going to be using a computer, you see here, and if I turn the camera around a little now, we have a computer screen. Let me set the camera straight and zoom in a little bit. Okay, see what we've got. I don't know what the resolution's like on this camera. It doesn't look too good in the viewfinder. It might settle down a little if I do this. As you can see, there's some software on here already, but what we're going to do is we're going to put TurboCAD on. And the way we do this is we've got a CD, and taking the CD out of the box very, very carefully and holding it like that so that our fingers are not touching the shiny silver side, we put this in the CD tray. CD tray open, and hopefully what we should see in a moment as the CD turns around, I can hear it turning around. It should pick up. There it is. Let's zoom in on that. Here you can see what we've got. Okay. It knows it's got TurboCAD Deluxe in there, and to install it we'll just run the setup. That's a .exe file. Now a .exe file is bad news to a computer because it means that it's got an executable file which may be harmful, and that's why on Windows 7 it's coming up with this. What does it say? Do you want to allow the following program from an unknown publisher to make changes to this computer? Yes, we do, because we want to install it. So off we go, and here we go. I'll just zoom out so we can see what's going on. Giving us a choice here: install TurboCAD Deluxe 16, install TurboCAD symbols, view documentation, visit turbocad.com and exit. So we want to do all those four. So this is the first one, and we get a box up that says preparing to install, which is always good. Always good news, because that means it's doing something. And now we're computing the space requirements. Click the next button. We always get an end user license agreement. There could be absolutely anything in this end user license agreement. I don't believe anybody's ever read to the end of one yet. So click next, give it a name. Now it's asking for a serial number, and a serial number is given on expensive pieces of software in the box like that. Now we've got to type that in. Now this is a bit I always hate, because it's very easy to make a mistype. So we do it very, very carefully. And having put the serial number in, off we go and click next. Now, if you can quite see the next button on there, we just there we are. And the serial number is not valid, as I said. It's very easy to mistype. And I put a K there instead of an X. So we'll try again. And there we are, it likes it now. So what have we got? We're going to install TurboCAD Deluxe 16 to C program files, IMSI Design, that's fine. A TurboCAD data folder, IMSI Design, TurboCAD 16, and a thumbnails folder, app data, roaming, IMSI Design thumbnails, and the user data folder, documents, TurboCAD Deluxe 16. They are all the default settings and they're fine for us, so we'll use them. Alright, now I want the full version of TurboCAD, so I'm going to click that radio button there and I'm going to click Next. The next thing it's telling me is to choose how I want the features to be installed. Now then, all of these are integral parts of TurboCAD, so I want them all, except perhaps possibly that. I don't want the SDK, I don't want the developer, but I do want the runtime. So I'm going to stick it in there and say Next. And then it says click or install to begin the installation. So that's what we're going to do. Now, I've put TurboCAD on machines before. It takes absolutely ages. And so what we're going to do is we're going to switch the camera off for a few minutes, make a cup of tea while it goes through whatever it's got to do, and switch it back on when it's done. Welcome back to the video, and what I've done then in the time I've been away is made a cup of tea, installed TurboCAD Deluxe 16, installed the symbol set. Haven't had a look at the documentation yet, but I've seen it before, so I don't really need to do that step. And I've visited turbocad.com, and the reason I've had to visit turbocad.com is to get an activation code, which you can see there. The activation code should allow me to start TurboCAD, and that's what we're going to do next, because we never walk away from anything until we've tested it. Let's zoom the camera out a little. I don't know if you can see the icons very clearly here, but this is the icon for TurboCAD Deluxe. So what I'm going to do is we're going to start it. And up comes TurboCAD. And we'll have a new file. Okay. Let's just draw some stuff in. Any random stuff will do. And it looks as though we've got a working version of TurboCAD there. So that's pretty good. Let's just alter the perspective. Whoop. Yeah, TurboCAD appears to be working fine. So we'll call that a successful installation. Now, let's have a look at the second method. Now, as I mentioned before, we have a CD, which is the old way to do it, but we have a second method, which is downloading, and there are some computers these days that you can't actually use a CD on. Quite a lot of desktops now don't have a CD drive. And then there are these things. I'll point the camera at something here. Now this is a netbook, and you don't actually see very many of these anymore, but this is one. It's quite old. You could in fact put an external CD drive onto this one, but it's much easier to connect it to a network and download things. Then, modern computing consists of these things. There's absolutely no way we're going to get any sort of disk drive onto that. And everything that we put on this is downloaded. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn the camera around and we're going to have a look at downloading onto the desktop to the same machine that I've just put TurboCAD on. Now TurboCAD is very good for things like mechanical drawings and 3D rendering, but it's not that good for electrical drawings. And for that I'm going to use a thing called fritzing. Fritzing is made by the University of Potsdam, and basically it allows you to draw electronic circuits either as a set of graphical designs or in the traditional way by using component symbols, but it's not available on compact disc. You have to download it. So we're going to the download section. Now we can donate to Fritzing to help the research come along. We're not going to do it at the moment because that means putting my credit card details and everything in. It takes ages, so we're just going to give them no donation on this one. Sorry, Fritzing. And we're going to download. Now, I am using Kaspersky. And I'm also using Firefox. Bit more awkward. I've got a 32-bit system, so I'm going for that, and in a moment it should start downloading. And with Firefox I always save the file. Funny things happen when you try to open it straight from Firefox, so it's always better to save the file. And it goes, if you can see it on the camera, it goes into the download box here. Now there's 179 megabytes to download, and my connection's quite slow. It's only done 2.6. So we're going to switch the camera off and we're going to come back when the download's finished, and then we're going to see how we actually run it. So having downloaded our 32-bit installer, we've now got to run it. And if I just move the camera up and zoom in here, we can see that it's in the download file for Mozilla Firefox. So we're going to show all downloads and zoom back out a little bit. And there we are, Fritzing. Now that's a zip file, so we're going to have to open it. And there we are. So, zoom out, let's see what we've got. Somewhere in there there'll be an exe file, and there it is. So we're going to extract all. And there it goes. Now it's going to take another wee while, so we're going to pause the film, well, about 60 seconds. We're going to pause the film until it's done. And as we come back, what we can see is that we've extracted all files into a new folder, and we can actually use them. And there's the exe file we're going to use to install Fritzing. Again, it asks me if I want to do this. Now I trust Fritzing, so yes, I'm going to run it. And here we go. And down on the bottom here, you can see what it's actually doing. And Fritzing is now working. So let's check it and see what happens. We'll do a new sketch. Now Fritzing is not responding here, and we need to find out why. It's doing an update, and we'll clean the files. So here we go. It'll take a few minutes, and once again we'll switch the camera off while it does it, and we'll come back once it has. So having cleaned the files, what we now need to do is open it up again and make sure that it works. So here we go. Yep, run that. We trust Fritzing. Right, so we're on the splash page. Let's try to open a new sketch. Loading new sketch, that's looking very hopeful. And there we are, we have a breadboard sketch. So what we're going to do is chuck an Arduino in there. There it is. Move the breadboard down a little. And I don't know, let's put a transistor on. NPN. We'll attach 5 volts to the collector of the NPN transistor and make sure the wire bends. It's doing what it should. Yes, good. Excellent. Change that colour to red, I think. Put a resistor on the base. Put a wire from the resistor to pin 11, why not? Change that to yellow. Good. And then I think we'll put in a relay. Nope, that's a servo. Where's the relay? There. So I get to put a diodo in. Wherever they are, there's one. Turn that round. Take 90 clockwise, there we go. And we'll run a wire from the emitter and we'll make that orange just to clarify what's happening there. Oops. And of course, wire to the ground, which will make black just to clarify what's happening. And another one to the ground of the Arduino. Splendid. So let's see if it'll come up in schematic. It does come up in schematic, but very, very messy, which is what we'd expect. We'd have to sort the schematic out from that. And that looks as though Fritzing is working. There's one more thing we've got to do. I'm not going to save this because it's just a tiny little test piece there. So there's one more thing we've got to do, and that is to create a shortcut and move that onto the desktop. Get rid of everything else, and down here are all my creative tools. I've got Inkscape, I've got Real World Paint, Movie Maker and TurboCAD, and so what we're going to do is we're going to move Fritzing to there, and we're going to rename it because at the moment it says Fritzing exe shortcut, and we'll just call it Fritzing. Let's make sure that shortcut works by booting up Fritzing again. Go. Open a new sketch. There's the breadboard. Let's get rid of the breadboard actually. And throw in this time not an Arduino but a Pinocchio board. And there we are. Fritzing successfully installed. So that's that job done, and in fact this video finished. What have we done in it? Let's just recap. We've installed TurboCAD in the traditional way from a CD, and we've installed Fritzing in the modern way from a download. Piece of cake.